Max, you have to help me with a problem. As I've begun to realize through your work and others how vast the universe really is, with multiple universes, different levels of multiverse, each one nesting on the other, an incalculable, maybe infinite number of whole universes like ours, I can't decide whether I should feel depressed because I'm so small, much smaller than I ever realized, or exhilarated because I understand this vast ensemble. Should I be depressed or exhilarated?
You should be happy about it, because I think in parallel with this trend where we've again and again and again discovered that everything that we thought existed was just part of something much grander, a planet, in a solar system, in a galaxy, in a universe, in a level 1 multiverse, in a level 2 multiverse, in a level 3 multiverse, in a level 4 multiverse. Now, in parallel with this trend of repeatedly underestimating the size of reality, we have also repeatedly underestimated our ability as humans to understand this. Underestimated the power of the human mind. And that, to me, is very meaningful and very empowering. And I think as we look to the future, this suggests that no, we're not doomed to stay forever confused, but there's real hope that by being creative and open-minded, we can ultimately understand this amazing reality that we're part of, and even shape it to be better.
Now, you postulate in your level 4 universe that mathematical structures generate multiple universes, and that's because mathematics is the underlying reality, not just something that describes reality, but the ultimate ground of reality. So if that were true, and I'm going to let you take me with you on your journey to believe this radical concept, if that were true, that would seem to get us a certain static determinism, that the mathematics would drive things, and it would seem to be less rich than one that was not founded on something so numerical. Now, how is my thinking faulty?
I think there are two reasons to be more upbeat about this viewpoint than you suggested there, Robert. One is that since mathematical structures are eternal and timeless, never created, never destroyed, that means that what we do here is not something which is doomed to just disappear into nothingness. In a sense, everything that we do in our lives is eternal, forever existing in this grand mathematical reality. I think that's a very empowering and
that sounds great. How would that happen if this universe dissipates into heat death by all particles flying apart, or goes into crush? I mean, what sort of an eternal existence would anything have? Not just our lives or our personalities, but anything. What kind of existence could it have if indeed everything is mathematical?
Well, Einstein's space-time, where time is just the fourth dimension, we can think of it, if life were a movie, as this being the entire DVD. So even if the movie has a sad ending on the DVD and the protagonist gets run over by a bus or something like that, the DVD itself is still there with the whole drama of what happened. And certainly it's much more fun if my grandkids can still have a DVD, where they can remember where I'm still there, than if all traces of me are forever lost. And moreover, it's not just memories of it, but the whole space-time with everything in there is actually just preserved. It just exists.
But is that the difference between a photograph and reality, or is it a different kind of reality? Huge difference.
Einstein's view is not that space-time is just some photograph of reality, but that space-time, where you have these 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time, is reality. And he even said himself, when he was close to his death, that death is just a persistent illusion. And he, I think, found some solace in that. So that's one reason to feel more upbeat about this. I think another reason to feel empowered by the mathematical way of looking at things is that some people find it kind of a downer to be reduced to a bunch of quarks. And one fascinating theme, which is coming out from many areas of physics and also neuroscience now, is that of emergence, where the higher level, the macro properties of things have sort of their own existence, even though you can in principle understand the motion of a wave by just studying the quarks bobbing up and down. a much more explanatory and useful way of thinking about it is by just thinking about the wave itself. And then it actually does, the quarks don't matter at all. You can have a wave in water, a wave in all sorts of other kind of substances. My mind would probably feel the same if I replaced certain kind of particles there by other kind of particles. If a computer program is self-aware, it won't even know if it's running on Microsoft Windows or on Mac OS, because the true reality is at this higher level. So rather than feel, oh, it's so undignified to be running on Microsoft Windows or to be a bunch of quarks, the really meaningful reality is the higher level thing. It is exactly us and our consciousness and so on. And whether it's quarks or schmorks or something else is actually quite secondary. We have an existence then which is somewhat substrate independent. And I think that's also a very empowering idea.
And that's the mathematics.
It works exactly because it's all mathematical, yes.
And whether the mathematics then expresses itself in quarks or some other feature in some other universe is somewhat irrelevant. So it's kind of what we call a functional approach, that it doesn't matter how the mathematics is expressing itself, but that's the deep reality. And so you go from the deep mathematics to us, and whatever in between doesn't matter all that much.
Exactly right.
Is that right?
Exactly right. And
I didn't know what I was saying.
And that's also why we've been so successful in understanding a lot of physics before we even knew what the building blocks were, because it didn't matter so much. That's why quarks were discovered much later than waves. I think there's another reason also to be more optimistic. Even though we've discovered we live in this vast reality, we know for sure, at least, that we have this universe that's so big it takes 13.8 billion years for light to just reach us from its edge. The more we've studied it, the weaker our evidence really is that it's teeming with life elsewhere. So we have to consider the possibility that we are actually the only life form advanced enough to build telescopes. And that means, in that case, that it's not that our universe is giving meaning to us, but we are giving meaning to our universe. Now, I find this rainforest here absolutely beautiful, and the Andromeda Galaxy stunningly pretty. Why is it beautiful? Because we are conscious of it. If we weren't here and nobody perceived the Andromeda Galaxy, it would just be a meaningless waste of space, as far as I'm concerned. So that does not make me feel small and meaningless. We are the meaning givers and the most meaningful things. And also, even though we're small, we not only give meaning to our universe, but we have learned to understand it enough that we can control it and make it better. And there's nothing in the laws of physics preventing the life that has started here on Earth from one day spreading into space and making much of our universe come alive. And if our universe fulfills its vital potential in this sense and becomes a fantastic self-aware organism, I don't know anything about how our distant ancestors are going to think of us, except that I'm sure they won't think of us as meaningless, because what we chose to do here on our little planet, maybe in our lifetime, made all the difference. So we should feel meaningful, important, and we should think, what can we do to really make a difference?